I had just moved to town. While the movers were unloading the final boxes, I decided to take a look around. Oh yeah, a little about me. Well, my name is Chris, and I was 17 when I moved here. I also like to write in my spare time. Kind of a hobby. Anyways, I decided to take a walk around the block and just familiarize myself with my new surroundings. Not much was here. Just some empty houses and some debris was outside each of the houses. It didn't really bother me. It's the city's problem, not mine. Although, a place did catch my eye. It looked like a factory. Huh. Strange. I saw some teenagers standing outside of it and talking. Hey guys, I said as I walked up. Who the hell are you? One of the teens responded. He looked to be the leader of their little group. Well, I'm Chris, I said in a polite voice. Aha, is that right? Chris, eh? The leader sounded as if he was mocking me. So, what's the deal with this place? I questioned, looking up at the smokestacks. You know about Matt? He said in a whisper. No? Who's Matt? Are one of you Matt? I asked, as I pointed to one of the others standing around. The guy chuckled and patted me on the shoulder, before pointing to the rusted metal doorframe. Matt's in there, he said in an even quieter tone. Walking forward, I rested my hand on the doorframe and peered inside. Without warning, I was shoved from behind and the door closed. See ya, sucker, I heard as the voice trailed away. Rising to my feet and dusting off my pants, I immediately was bombarded by a rancid odor. It smelled like rotten meat and death. God, that smells like my ex-girlfriend, I said, coughing, trying to make a joke out of the situation I was in. Walking around, the sun was peering through high broken window panels. I could see what looked like stains of blood on the floor. I couldn't hear anything. Not even a rat. Nothing. Matt? I asked as my voice echoed from the walls. I saw a shadow in the back of the corner of the factory. Are you Matt? I asked the shadow, as it looked to be moving. I began to reach out to the shadow, inching my hand closer and closer. Hey, it's okay, you're safe. Suddenly, the factory door opened, and I saw my mother and a police officer staring at me. Turning back to the shadow I was reaching for, it was gone. The police officer drew his firearm at me. Freeze! He shouted. Putting my hands up, I looked at my mother. That's when I noticed that I was completely soaked in blood. After telling the officer of how I came to be in that place, he apologized profusely. That night was strange, to say the least. It was about midnight, and I couldn't hear anything. No cars, no people, not even animals. I've never felt this silence before. I thought I was going deaf. So I rushed to the bathroom and turned the light on as I looked at myself in the mirror. I could see dried blood trailing from my ears down to my shoulders. Then the bathroom light went out. I ran out of there, back to my room. But when I looked back, I saw a figure standing in the darkness, just watching me. I heard the figure whisper, "Be quiet." Then the bathroom door slammed shut. Quickly, I got under my blankets and watched my door. All night. I never moved. Why is this happening to me? I thought as I sat there in my bed, stricken with fear. As the sun rose and the shadows began to fade, I felt safer. I got off my bed and opened my door with a sigh of relief, only to be greeted face to face with a shadow. It had a twisted smile. I couldn't look away. "Honey," my mother called from around the corner. Just then, the shadow vanished into thin air. I steadied my resolve. Maybe those kids are just trying to scare me. Yeah, I'm overreacting. I took a shower, then decided to find those kids that pushed me into that place. They must be behind this. Those sick fucks, I thought to myself. I decided to head back to the factory, and sure enough, those kids were still there. "Hey, asshole," I said, marching up to the group. "What do you want, another tour?" one of the kids responded. "No, I want to know why you snuck into my house and tormented me last night," I shouted in a rage. "Dude, I have no idea what you're talking about," he said, folding his arms across his chest. "You guys snuck in and hid in my house just to scare me. I even heard one of you telling me to be quiet or something." As I spoke to the group, their faces began to turn pale. "Wait, you mean to say someone told you to be quiet?" he asked in a very shaken manner. Yeah. Didn't you hear me?" I questioned, before the leader of the little group pulled me aside away from the others. "Alright, man. It's only fair, since you'll be dead soon." He paused for a moment, then began whispering. "This factory is Matt's factory. You can go in and out freely, but if you make too much noise in there, your corpse is found a few days later, twisted and tortured." "Yeah, whatever," I replied. After all, I was skeptical. "Listen, I respect Matt enough to keep my mouth shut, but I've seen shit no 16-year-old is supposed to see." He paused once more, looking back at his friends that just stood outside the entrance. "My brother died because he didn't follow Matt's one rule. Matt likes his peace and quiet. Whoever disturbs that, well, let's just say the reaction isn't pretty." He sighed for a moment, then walked me back to the others. "Hey guys, let's give this one a break. No tricks," he said in a slightly compassionate voice. "Aw, come on," one of the teens pleaded. "No means no. Or do I have to put you in there?" The leader seemed to have a lot of control of his little gang. "No," the other whispered as he backed away and lowered his head. "So, if what you say is true, how do I survive?" I whispered, slightly more concerned now. The kid shook his head, looked me straight in the eyes, and told me to just be quiet. "If you see something, anything, unnatural, don't make a sound." He slightly chuckled. "But, you see, Matt isn't blind. He can see everything in the darkness now. He just enjoys his solitude. But if it's broken by the slightest noise, like a pin drop, or footsteps, or even a heartbeat, then you don't have a chance, he said, shaking his head in despair. The only way to be truly quiet is to die, he said, walking towards the entrance and peering inside. I'd advise just staying away from this place, if you know what's good for you, he said, turning back to me once more. So I left and headed home. That night, when I was getting ready for bed, I happened to look out my window. I could see the factory. And what is that? Clouds? The whole sky is clear except over the factory. That's when I heard my mother scream. I rushed out of my room and into the kitchen. There was blood everywhere. The walls, the sink, and my mom. Oh my God. It looked like someone stomped her throat in. I felt sick and backed away. Dad? Dad? I shouted, running through the house. Oh, Dad, thank God. There you are, I said, walking towards him, sitting in a chair. But to my fear, his throat was sliced open. The blade was left in his throat, halfway through the cut. I gotta get out of here. This isn't happening. It's not happening. I attempted to reason with myself, putting on some clothes and grabbing a knife from the kitchen. This sick fuck pissed me off for the last time. Now he has gone too far. I rushed through the neighborhood, making my way to the factory. But as I ran down the road, I happened to look up. Those clouds were following me? I shrugged it off as I jumped through the darkness. My family was gone. I had nothing else to lose. I was wrong. Upon entering the decrepit old building, I shouted, "Matt! Come here, you murdering fuck!" If I knew then what I know now, I probably shouldn't have done that. Without warning, the heavy metal doors slammed shut behind me. That's when I heard the voice. The cold, evil, demonic voice. Be quiet! I was frozen, paralyzed with fear. My nerves were shattered almost instantly. I never felt this feeling. It was horrid and sickening. I brought the kitchen knife up, a foot in front of me, ready to fight. The voice grew louder over my right shoulder. Be quiet. I quickly covered my mouth with my free hand and closed my eyes. I've made a terrible mistake. I shouldn't have come here. Tears began to stream down my face as I withheld any noise. That's when I remembered that kid. He said Matt could hear a heartbeat. Be quiet. I don't know how, but I was lifted off the ground by my neck. It felt like hands, but nothing was in front of me. My vision began to blur, and the colors started to bleed together. And that's all I remember, officer. The police officer stood up and retrieved a news article clipping that looked aged and discolored. He placed the clipping in front of me before walking out and locking the door behind him. The article said 3 boys were slaughtered a few days ago. The picture listed of the boys were the ones I had met outside the factory. Well, at least this padded room is nice and quiet.